Welcome to The Explainer. So, today, we're diving into a pretty wild idea, something that comes from these ancient mystical texts. It's this belief that our souls might actually get a second chance. Let's get right into it.
All right, so let's start with a puzzle, a real mind-bender that kind of unlocks a whole hidden world inside these ancient texts. I want you to imagine this. What if a biblical villain and a really righteous judge were the exact same soul? Just think about that for a second. That one question, it kind of challenges everything we think we know about justice, about fairness, and yeah, about second chances.
Okay, so look at this. The symmetry here is just incredible. You've got King Abimelech, right? He takes Sarah and boom, he's told he's going to die on account of the woman. Then, fast forward a few generations, and you get this other guy, a really brutal ruler, also named Abimelech, and how does he die? A woman drops a millstone on his head. I mean, come on. The sources we're looking at say, no way this is a coincidence. They're telling us this is one single soul on a mission trying to fix a huge mistake from a past life.
So how is this even possible, right? To get our heads around it, we have to look at this really core concept from Jewish mysticism. A good way to think about it is, it's like a spiritual operating system, just running in the background of the whole biblical story.
The concept is called Gilgul Neshamot. It literally translates to the wheeling or the cycling of souls. And the main idea here, the fundamental idea, is that a soul's journey, well, it's not a one-and-done kind of thing. It can actually come back, live in a new body, and just keep going with its work over many, many lifetimes. It's a totally radical way to reframe what life is all about.
And get this isn't just some vague theory. These mystical texts, they actually map out this huge, interconnected web of souls. It's like finding a secret spiritual family tree that links all these biblical figures you would never, ever expect to be connected.
Yeah, it's almost like you put on a special pair of glasses and all of a sudden you can see this hidden layer, this kind of spiritual DNA. And once you see it, you start to notice how the strengths and the weaknesses of one person's soul can just echo through time, popping up again in someone totally different.
Let me give you a great example. So way back in the book of Numbers, there's the wife of a guy named On Ben Pelet. She does something incredibly brave. She saves her husband from a rebellion. Okay, now flash forward hundreds of years. That exact same courageous spiritual energy, it shows up again in Michal, King Saul's daughter. And what does she do? She saves her husband, David, from her own dad's crazy anger. It's the same soul, different life, but the same heroic choice.
Or how about Absalom, King David's son? His stunningly beautiful hair was his biggest source of pride, of vanity, and it literally becomes his downfall when it gets tangled in a tree. But then, that same soul comes back as a holy Nazirite. And a Nazirite is someone who dedicates their hair to a higher divine purpose. So the very thing, the vanity, that destroyed him in one life is transformed into the source of his devotion in the next. It's amazing.
And this chart here, it just shows you how wide this web really spreads. You've got villainous souls like Jezebel coming back, heroic souls who continue their mission. You even have Abel's soul returning as his brother Seth to keep the family line going. And then there are figures like Manoah, Samson's father, coming back to fix some kind of imbalance. I mean, these connections are absolutely everywhere once you start looking.
Okay, so this has got to make you wonder, right? What's the point of all this? Is it some kind of punishment? A cosmic game of musical chairs with souls? The answer, it turns out, is way deeper, and honestly, a lot more compassionate than you might think.
The whole purpose of Gilgul is this beautiful, beautiful concept called Tikkun. It's a Hebrew word, and it just means repair. So you see, this is not about punishment at all. It's a system of cosmic compassion. It's about giving a soul as many chances as it needs to fix whatever was broken. It's a system that's built from the ground up on hope.
So let's break down how this Tikkun thing actually works. A great way to think about it is like a software update for the soul. Right? So step 1, a bug gets identified, some kind of spiritual flaw. Step 2, the soul gets redeployed, basically, into a new life, a new body. Now step 3 is the crucial part. It runs into a situation that's designed to mirror the original problem. This is the key. And finally, step 4, it gets a brand new opportunity to choose correctly, to fix the code, and to complete that spiritual repair.
Okay, so this whole process of repair, it starts as a really personal journey, but it builds into something so much bigger. It becomes a vision for reality itself. We're not just talking about individual souls anymore. We're talking about the entire cosmos.
So according to these texts, the universe itself has like a source code, a divine blueprint. It's called the Tree of Life, and it's built on these 10 divine dimensions or attributes called the Sephirot. Think of them as the operating system. Now, the story goes that when the world was created, these holy sparks, they're called nitzutzits, got trapped down here in our physical world. And our job, our whole purpose through our personal tikkun, is to find and elevate these little spiritual pixels. And in doing that, we're not just repairing ourselves, we're helping to repair the very fabric of the entire universe.
And this whole giant cosmic system, it all hinges on one single, incredibly powerful idea: free will. Our ability to choose repair instead of brokenness, to choose life, as the text says. That's not some random accident. These sources tell us it's literally woven into the design of the universe, which means our choices, they matter on a scale that is just staggering to think about.
And you know what? This brings this huge cosmic idea right down to earth, right into our daily lives. This isn't just some ancient history lesson or abstract philosophy. It's actually super personal. So, what are we supposed to do with all this? Okay, I want you to think about something right now. That one recurring challenge you have in your life. You know the one I'm talking about. That argument you always seem to have, that bad habit you just can't kick, that specific situation where you always seem to stumble. Now, what if? What if that's not just you failing? What if that's your soul's tikkun opportunity? The exact spiritual test that it has come back here specifically to pass.
And that really leaves us with one last big thought. If you saw that challenge not as a source of frustration, but as your life's purpose, how would you approach it then? How would you act differently if you knew for sure that this moment right here, this was your soul's second chance to finally get it right?
Thank you for joining us for this complete journey through the Pardes. We hope these ancient truths help you and your family improve your own dimensions this week. If you enjoyed this full chapter deep dive, please like, subscribe, and share which part of the journey touched your soul in the comments. We'll see you in the next chapter.